Can you please take a minute to leave a rating and review of Marijuana Today Daily over at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever else you consume your podcasts? Just search for the term marijuana and let us know how we're doing. Thanks so much. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our exclusive multi-state cannabis operator sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's top vertically integrated medical and wellness cannabis operators. With 53 local dispensaries, 15 cultivation sites, and 24 processing facilities operating in 14 states. You can learn more about Curaleaf over at curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled Curaleaf. That's curaleaf.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Monday, March 2nd, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 895 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We lead off this week's news in Vermont, where we've been hanging out a lot here on the Daily in the past week or so, as a piece of legislation to set up a taxed and regulated sales program has progressed in the state that has already legalized adult use growth, possession, consumption, and sharing. On Thursday, the Vermont House of Representatives cast a final vote of approval on their version of Senate Bill 54. Which must now be handled by a conference committee to work out differences between the versions in the House and the original Senate bill passed by that legislative chamber. One of the interesting notes on the House bill approved late last week was the omission of a provision allowing police to use saliva testing kits on drivers they suspect of using cannabis. That's something that Vermont Governor Phil Scott says he wants to see in sales legislation, so the fact that it's not there could throw some twists in this one down the road. 7 Days VT has more here if you need it. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Florida grabs the day's second top headline as a bill was filed late last week in the state's Senate to impose a cap for THC for medical marijuana patients under the age of 21 of 10%. The proposed bill is actually a modified version of a much stricter earlier measure that would have limited all medical marijuana sold in Florida to 10% THC, something that would be disastrous to the current medical marijuana program. This one lands as a top story today because I think the general idea of THC caps is a dangerous one that we're seeing pop up more and more around the country. THC is not a poison, and the fact that it's found in high concentrations in top quality marijuana products should not scare people. THC caps are easy-sounding solutions to problems that do not exist, and they should be fought wherever they appear. We head to the Bay State for our final top story this fine Monday, with the leading members of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission writing a letter to lawmakers asking that a program be set up to give loans to entrepreneurs participating in the state's marijuana social equity program. As I'm sure all of you know, it takes a lot of money to start up a brick-and-mortar marijuana business, which is a difficult hill to climb if you don't have a lot of money yourself or easy access to people who do, as is the case with most folks. That access to capital is easily the greatest impediment to social equity participants in getting their businesses up and running, which is what drove Cannabis Control Commission Chair Stephen Hoffman and Executive Director Sean Collins to pen their missive to legislators last week, asking them to look at other loan programs in Illinois and California for inspiration. Not a bad story to read in full. This is a very important issue. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's top multi-state cannabis operators with 53 local dispensaries, 15 cultivation sites, and 24 processing facilities operating in 14 states. Curaleaf knows exactly how positive marijuana can be for people, especially those who utilize it for medical benefits, which is one of the reasons why it supports the work of the Veterans Cannabis Project, which works to expand access to medical marijuana by military veteran patients. There are too many veterans of our nation's military who could find relief with the use of medical marijuana who just aren't able yet to legally access it. The Veterans Cannabis Project is working to fix that. To learn more about the Veterans Cannabis project, including how you can help in their mission, open up their website at vetscp.org. That's vetscp.org. Thanks again to everyone over at Curaleaf for supporting our show and the vital work done over at the Veterans Cannabis Project. All right, time for the Blitz. Newsweek has a good piece up looking at planned product launches up in Canada of low-cost marijuana flower designed to compete with the illicit market. Canadian firms like Tilray, Canopy Growth, and Aurora are all planning their own versions of low-cost flower brands, set to be sold in some cases as cheaply as $4 per gram, a price usually reserved now for the illicit market, according to numbers from Statistics Canada. Given the trouble that Canada has had in the last year and a half of having nationwide adult use legalization, this tack seems like a reasonable one. Crain Chicago Business takes an interesting look at the particular fondness that our industry has for building marijuana dispensaries in empty bank buildings. It's a phenomenon seen just about everywhere legal marijuana has landed, as shuttered bank buildings offer all the easy access built on top of strict security found at your average bank branch. The uptick in new cannabis dispensary openings also happens to be occurring just as banks are closing retail locations as they consolidate and cut costs. Ben Adlin, writing over Marijuana Moment, has a good update on how things are going in Oregon for broader efforts to end the war on drugs by decriminalizing all low-level drug possession charges and to generally treat problematic drug use as the health issue that it is, rather than as a criminal justice matter. Over the weekend, activists in Oregon announced a new campaign to pass a ballot measure diverting some of the state's legal marijuana tax revenue to be used for addiction recovery centers focused on evidence-based harm reduction practices, while also removing criminal penalties for the small-time possession of all drugs. Backers of the measure IP44 now need to collect just over 112,000 valid signatures of support to land on the ballot and say they already have 48,471 yet to be verified. Canadian marijuana company CannTrust, which fell into a big, giant, self-created corporate morass last year when it was caught growing off-the-books cannabis that it hid from regulators, was recently warned by the New York Stock Exchange that it was in danger of being delisted due to its average stock price falling below the $1 per share mark. That's after it received a similar warning back in December. Right now, CannTrust shares on the New York Stock Exchange are running around 64 cents a share, down from their high this time last year when it was trading at closer to $10 per share. State officials in Minnesota are calling on lawmakers to set up a central state-run entity to oversee legal hemp, medical marijuana, and any future adult use programs that spool up. Minnesota's medical marijuana program now has more than 18,000 registered patients, and CBD products are sold all over the state. And Whitney Place, Assistant Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, thinks that one government agency should be in charge of overseeing all of that. She's among the state officials, along with representatives from the Department of Health, who have and are pushing the idea. A good one to be on top of if you do any kind of business in Minnesota. We have a good headline out of New York State, where Norman Birnbaum, executive director of the New York State Office of Cannabis Management, said in an interview over the weekend that making adult use marijuana legal was, quote, the right thing to do for public health and public safety, unquote. It's a good philosophy to see in the state where it's expected that adult use legalization will pass this year, as New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who appointed Birnbaum to his position, has made it clear that he wants to see prohibition fall. This is another one I'd give a full dive in on if you're involved at all in New York State's legal cannabis market. Our final story in the day is one of transition, as Colorado-based company Medicine Man Technologies just announced that its founder and current president and vice chairman Andy Williams is stepping down from the company he helped start back in 2014. You should remember Medicine Man for the large acquisitive run it went on last year, scooping up tens of new dispensaries and cannabis businesses, ultimately spending $300 million in all. Williams said that he was leaving Medicine Man Technologies to pursue new opportunities in the industry. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Curaleaf, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.